The top two seeds in the Western Conference are locked into a tied series through 4 games of the NBA playoffs. Matt, I got a very simple question for you. Are the Phoenix Suns playing the New Orleans Pelicans or the Memphis Grizzlies playing the Minnesota Timberwolves more in trouble of falling in the first round?
You know, I still think Memphis is a little bit more in trouble, although the Phoenix Suns are missing Devin Booker, and that was shown very apparent in Game 4. I still think Memphis is a little bit younger. Ja Morant has not been able to play to, I think, the level we all kind of expected from him. The Timberwolves have played really good defense on him. Give credit to Patrick Beverley and some of the other guys on that T-Wolves team for doing that. I think the other thing is that the youth of the Timberwolves isn't as much of a detriment against Memphis because they're both very young teams.
Sure.
And so I think this is still a situation where all you need is, Anthony Edwards to go off for, 1 or 2 more games. You need Karl-Anthony Towns, and that's just as likely.
It's a big ask.
It is, but you've seen it from Edwards, you've seen it from Russell, you've seen it from Cat. I think that it's far more likely that Minnesota can get hot for 2 more games than it is, for Phoenix with all of their, veteran leadership and their experience making runs in the playoffs. I think that's still going to outweigh the loss of Booker and kind of hinder the heat streak that the Pelicans have been on. And then also, I give a lot of credit to Monty Williams. I mean, that is one of the best coaches in the league.
Certainly.
We both think that.
Yep.
I think he can still get them out of this. And you still have, it's 2-2. It can go either way, and I just trust Phoenix more than I trust Memphis at this moment.
Yeah, we disagree. And nothing too crazy, but I think people are ignoring or forgetting the fact that the Memphis Grizzlies were one of the best, most consistent teams throughout the regular season this year. They were top 5 in points, rebounds, blocks, point differential throughout the regular season. And you mentioned it, Ja Morant just hasn't been himself through games 3 and games 4. He's 9 of 31 from the field during that stretch, and I just don't expect that subpar play to continue. And Desmond Bane, I've mentioned him multiple times. I've called him the steal of the 2020 NBA draft, and he's proving why he's one of the league's young best shooters and players in the entire NBA. He's got 60 points, 15 threes in his last 2 games. This man is hooping. He's honestly carrying the Grizz as Ja kind of struggles a little bit. And again, the Grizzlies are one of the deeper teams. I mentioned those 2 at the top, Jaren Jackson Jr., Dylan Brooks, Melton, Slow-Mo. Tyus Jones has been giving them really good minutes off the bench at that backup point guard role. So I think the Grizzlies are the better team, the deeper team, and I think they'll outlast the T-Wolves. I'm just not going to put too much stock into Patrick Beverley and a bunch of young bucks in Minnesota to kind of get over that hump. And especially, and I'm talking about depth and bench. Minnesota's bench just doesn't do it for me. Obviously, Malik Beasley can play a little bit, but the rest of those guys leave a lot to be desired. But on the other side, I think the Suns are in trouble. I said it last week. I think they're in trouble, and I think it starts with obviously the fact that Devin Booker is out. That probably gave the Pelicans confidence, and that's something a number 8 seed should not have against a number 1 seed. We talked about it. Obviously, meanwhile, since Booker's injury, Brandon Ingram has dropped 3 straight 30 balls. 3 straight 30 pieces. Yep. Meanwhile, Jose Alvarado is looking like the Chris Paul kryptonite at this point. He's matching him, picking him up 94 feet, causing them into 8 seconds, into turnovers and whatnot. So this Pelicans team, Herb Jones, these guys are not scared of the Suns. So I think that's an issue. Obviously, both of the higher seeds will get a possible Game 7 at home. So, you probably like those chances with the top 2 seeds. But I really think that the Suns are in real trouble. And on the other side, I'm just not too worried about the Grizzlies. And that's probably a byproduct of just not being a believer in the Minnesota Timberwolves at this point.
No, and that's fine to not be a believer. I just still think Phoenix, you talked about the depth. Phoenix has that depth. It's just a question of when they're going to step up. Jay Crowder hasn't played exactly great so far.
He needs to play
But he
better.
can turn around. You talk about guys like Cam Payne, who came up big last year for them. Yep. Johnson.
Cam Johnson as well, yeah.
DeAndre Ayton. This is a team that made it to the finals and won the first 2 games against the Milwaukee Bucks and still gave them a run for their money after that.
And I asked you this question earlier, and I'm glad you brought up the finals. What was the biggest detriment to the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals last year? It was their size, particularly in the front court. And I think we're seeing that rear its head again here in this series because Larry Nance, Jonas Valanciunas, Jackson Hayes, those are some big boys who, again, are not scared of this Phoenix Suns front court led by DeAndre Ayton and JaVale McGee. And their size, the Pelicans' size, is giving the Suns real problem. And again, with Devin Booker out of the lineup, that's 30 points per game in the playoffs out of your lineup. Chris Paul has to continue to carry that load. And I'm not sure at this point if he's able to pick up that scoring load. We know he's the point guard. We know he's the leader, a facilitator. But there's a lot of points, with Devin Booker out of the lineup that needs to be picked up. And I love Bridges. I love Cam Johnson. I love, Cam Payne as well. Jay Crowder needs to shoot the ball better. But those points got to come from somewhere. And, again, when you have Brandon Ingram and C.J. McCollum who can each go for a 30-piece, like that, I think the Suns are in a bit of a world of trouble. Although I wouldn't necessarily pick the Pelicans at this point, but if I'm picking one to be worried about, it's the Suns. But we'll see how this one, these two series rather shake out, both tied at 2 apiece. These playoffs have off to a fast start.
Oh, yeah.
An entertaining start. We can't wait to see how it plays out. But catch us on tomorrow's episode of Simple Question. For Scott Proctor and Matt Morris, we'll see you then.